Good evening and thanks so much for tuning in. This is The Money Show on ET Now and my name is Alex Matthew. On this program, we get you everything that you need to know about your money. Specifically, how to earn more of it, how to safeguard yourself against unseen and unforeseen circumstances, how to invest your money wisely, and also how to spend so that you get the best bang for your buck. Now, on today's program, we'll be focusing on a contingency fund or emergency fund. What's it all about and why do you need it? How much of it should you have? We'll also talk about a foldable phone without a crease on our Tech Tuesday segment. So let's get started with the first conversation of the day. It gives me pleasure to introduce my first guest, who is Amit Kukreja, the founder of Amit Kukreja Advisory. Thank you so much, Amit, for taking the time. And I want to start by asking about the contingency fund. Now, obviously, it means that it's supposed to safeguard emergencies, but how important would you say the emergency fund is in the context of what we've seen over the last couple of years?
I think last 18 months have been the biggest reinforcement of the fact that we need to make sure we have enough emergency fund or contingency fund to sail through the situations that are triggered by pandemic. A lot of people did not believe in making a contingency fund, or if they had a contingency fund or an emergency fund, they invested that money in high risk investments, presuming that they will never face a contingency. But the last 18 months have repeatedly proven that contingencies can happen anytime. And we don't know if we could be sitting on another contingency given what's been happening with the new variant of coronavirus. So I guess the important part is to understand that life will always not go smoothly. There can be hiccups, there can be problems in your personal life, there can be problems at a macroeconomic level or at a geopolitical level where it might hurt your ongoing situation badly, and you should be adequately prepared to deal with that situation financially, and hence the importance of contingency fund can't be reiterated more. That's my view on it, Alex.
So it is absolutely, and that's a very important point that you're raising. It is essentially a safety net. And while people have insurance against health emergencies, or in fact life insurance in the event of the loss of life, so that you can safeguard your immediate family and your financial dependence, a contingency fund is more broader, right? So what purpose is it supposed to serve? And could you explain to us, based on your interactions with people, certain, I'm sure, real world examples will help our viewers understand how important this is?
Sure, absolutely. So contingency fund helps you cater to situations where a loss of job may happen of the earning member, or there is a sudden illness in the family and you need money to take care of the situation until the insurance claims are processed. Or if you are not insured, then even all the more important it is to have a contingency fund to deal with medical contingencies in the family. It could also be because you have to leave your job because of very frustrating circumstances where you can't put up with the nonsense that's happening in the workplace, and you need money to sail you out until you find another opportunity. It can also happen that you have dependent parents who do not have enough financial capacity and they have run into medically contingent situations and you need to bail them out financially. There are plethora of situations, leave alone the pandemic triggered situation that we all went through. So there are plethora of situations where life is not unfolding the way we are anticipating it to be. And in those situations, in order for us to sail through it smoothly, we need contingency fund availability. Hence, the money should always be maintained to a certain level, and we can talk about that in a follow-up segment or follow-up questions, to ensure there is not stress in the family as you're going through emotionally and mentally challenging circumstances. We also want to make sure that financially challenging situations are not aggravating the problem that you're already facing at an emotional and mental level.
Let's talk about the specifics of this contingency or emergency fund, Amit. How does one construct this? In that, the first thing that one must understand obviously is how large it should be, and therefore, how does an individual decide how much should be in that contingency fund?
Sure, sure. I'll take a few very basic examples, right? Number one, if there is a possibility that you may lose your job, then how many months it might take for you to find another job of the same level, right? So if you are at a middle management level, you might need 3 months to find another job. If you are at a junior management level, you might get a job next week itself, or maybe a next month. If you are at a executive VP level or a managing director level, it might take you a couple of years to find another job, which is equivalent to your current job. Based on your age, designation, and the industry factor that you are part of. If you are in technology, it's very likely that you will find a job sooner. But if you are in hospitality, you may not find a job anytime sooner because of the pandemic situation, right? So based on the industry, based on your designation, based on your age and experience, it varies. So it could be anywhere from 3 months of monthly expenses, including your EMIs, to 24 months of monthly expenses. Normally what happens, people after 45 become very conscious about their retirement. And if you are having a financial advisor on board, he will ensure a portion of your retirement portfolio is being deployed into liquid assets, which are serving the contingency fund aspect if the contingent situation arises. You have to see what exactly is going to bail you out if you are losing a job, or if you are having a medical exigency where your parents have suddenly fallen sick and you need money for them and they are not insured. Or even if they're insured, then you need money to insure until the claims are processed. The medical procedure is not gated. If you have an earning spouse or an earning family member, then the contingency fund requirement goes down because there is another family member who will be supportive enough from the cash flows point of view to help the family sail through the situation. But if the spouse is a homemaker and there's only one earning member, the importance of having a contingency fund becomes even higher. So you have to evaluate all these factors to determine what is the right level. My average recommendation has been you should have a contingency fund of at least 6 months to up to 24 months of monthly expenses, including EMI, and about 5 to 10 lakhs on top of it for dealing with any medically contingent situations. 6 to 24 months is a number that you will determine based on the factors that I just enumerated 10 seconds ago to determine what is the right level of contingency fund for you. I hope that answers, Alex.
It does, but the thing about it, Amit, is I think a lot of people tuning in will have this concern or will point out that already if you are staying in a city like Mumbai, your expenses are so significant that saving up for long-term goals itself is a challenge. So how does one accumulate, even 6 months of their salary to put this contingency fund together? And at what stage of the journey should it fall under? Should I focus first on putting this contingency fund together and then on my other goals?
Wonderful question, Alex. I'm very happy, excited that you asked this question. Financial planning for yourself is a layered process. You need to build layer by layer by layer what you need in order for you to have a peace of mind and a very peaceful sleep at night. The very first layer that you need to build is contingency fund. If your contingency fund is not in place, there is no point doing investing for financial goals, because if contingent times hit you, your goals are anyways sabotaged. And if your money is stuck in risky assets during the times when contingency has hit you, it's even double whammy. You can't pull out the money, or your money has gone down because of the market correction or whatever that reason is. So you need to first build your contingency fund. Only once that is done, you need to next build your insurance framework, which is the second layer. Make sure you have the right medical and life insurances so that your dependents are not suffering in case of medically or life contingent situations arise. Then third comes the layer of planning or investing for financial goals. If the first layer and the second layer is not put in place, there is no point doing the layer 3 action, because it's going to be a high risk path and not a high reward, but I would say a very high risk path where you might lose out in a very big way what you have put aside by investing in risky assets and due to the contingent time which has hit you.
You know, that's a very, very important point I think you're raising, because I've heard of situations, Amit, where people have said, okay, I need a down payment on my house and I don't want to borrow as much, so let me take a little bit from what I've set aside for exigencies, for emergencies, and so they dent that emergency fund to a certain extent. And this is obviously a big no-no. My question, however, is it's important for this to be liquid, but would you say that you need to put, say, at least 6 months aside? And if your ideal level of contingency is 12 months, first put the 6 months aside, take care of any other needs, and then progressively increase it? Or is it a hard and fast rule that you absolutely must put aside 12 months before you do anything else?
So I would say, based on the number of months of expenses that you have calculated you need the contingency fund for, go for building that up first. So if you don't have the capacity to build your contingency fund in one go, then build it up systematically, gradually. Put 20,000, 10,000 every month, like you do recurring deposit. Even recurring deposits can serve as a purpose of contingency fund. So build up your contingency fund systematically based on your capacity. Once you have reached that level, then get into detailed financial goals planning. And you know what happens? You have to understand, if somebody's thinking about a bigger contingency fund, then he's definitely a senior executive. He's definitely a guy who may not easily get another job if he loses that job. And he's definitely a guy in an age group where his children have grown up, and loss of job may impact the family much more adversely. So it becomes all the more important for that senior person to have contingency fund of a higher duration of months to be handy in case of contingent times hitting them. So don't take stress, systematically build it up first, then plan your long-term financial goals. That's my view. I mean, people can have different views, which is...
Amit, for those people that are just about starting up. Yeah. I think it's harder for those people that are just about starting up, because they're already facing a bit of a cash flow issue. And they need to identify that this is the first thing that they need to do. Having said that, I want to also get into the nitty-gritties, in that when you're setting up this fund, obviously it needs to be readily accessible to you. So a lot of people just put this money aside in a savings bank account. What is the ideal instrument that you should choose, though?
Yeah. So if you don't understand debt mutual funds, then you can put your money into fixed deposits. You can have recurring deposits set up if you don't have lump sum readily available. You can have a recurring deposit of 15, 20,000, or you can set up a fixed deposit if you have the lump sum available. Make smaller amounts of fixed deposit and higher number of fixed deposits, and stagger them for a 3-month maturity, 6-month maturity, 9-month maturity, or a 12-month maturity. If you are a high income tax bracket salaried individual, liquid funds is the best option for you, or a combination of liquid funds, ultra short funds, and low duration funds, because as the duration of the underlying asset increases, the return on your investment also increases. And debt funds are very tax efficient assets. On completion of 3 years, you get indexation advantage. And if contingency situation is not arising at all in your life, which I hope so happens, then the entire growth that you have in the invested money becomes tax efficient. FDs are good for people who don't understand debt mutual funds or who are on the lower income tax bracket. And recurring deposits, the same thing for recurring deposits as well.
Okay, so I have a bit of a conditional question, or rather it's a scenario, because I also have come across people who say, okay, you know, both my spouse and I are working, we both have credit cards, and we use these credit cards as an avenue to take care of exigencies, any cash flow issues can get taken care of there, and they have sizable portfolios that they've invested in for long-term goals, or sometimes not even for the purpose of goals, but they've built a certain amount of wealth and comfort. Can they use that credit card though as an alternative to building a contingency fund?
Absolutely not. Don't borrow money on your credit card. And even if you borrow, well, it's not borrowing. If you're using it for making any purchases or shopping, make sure your bills are cleared within this stipulated time without incurring any interest rate on it. Credit card loans are the most expensive loans on earth. They can charge you 36% per annum. And the communication is not as black and white as I'm stating it here. So avoid credit card debts completely. Unless you don't have a choice, then take it and make sure you have the payback capacity. But before borrowing money on your credit card, see if you can borrow money from friends and family members and return them once you have the money coming back to you.
I'm absolutely glad that you pointed that out. Thank you so much, Amit, for taking the time. I think this is one of the most important topics that we will cover on this program, and I hope that a lot of people have listened to this and will follow your advice.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, now on that note, we are slipping into a short break, but we've got Tech Tuesday on the other side, so do stay tuned.